Hello, my name is Samuel Costa, and this is my reflective commentary for the certification of HPL Teacher Leader. First, I'll just do a short introduction. I'm 33 years old. I'm from the USA. I graduated from Stony Brook University with a master's in TESOL, and I'm an ESL teacher for my whole career. I've taught in South Korea for about 8 years and Vietnam for about 2 years. And currently, I am teaching at Nguyen Siu School in Hanoi, Vietnam, which is an HPL school. So to talk about my role a little bit and the progression of my role related to HPL has been quite a progression. When I first started at Nguyen Siu School, I just was an academic English teacher, just like the rest of the teachers in my department. The school noticed that I had a talent for creating lessons that students were engaged with and students were that had like a variety of different products and outcomes and feedback processes. And so they thought that I would be a good candidate for the HPL Teacher Leader program. And so I started enrolling in that. As I started, when I started at Nguyen Siu School, we were all trained in the HPL competencies and the ACPs and VAAs and the 7 pillars, and explained what HPL was and what the school was trying to achieve with their HPL accreditation. And so I thought I would give it a try if they thought I had a particular talent for leading people regarding HPL. And so after that, shortly after I started taking part in the HPL Teacher Leader program, they adjusted my responsibilities to help the AE department, the academic English department in the school, sort of catch up with HPL implementation and embedding HPL into the AE program, since it was slightly behind the Cambridge program and other programs at the time. So I became sort of an HPL lead just for the academic English program. Teachers would come to me and ask me how they could embed HPL in their lessons so that they can satisfy the school as well as make their lessons more engaging and interesting for their students. And I provided feedback and workshops on that. It also became my responsibility to systematize the HPL lesson plans and make sure that the scheme of work and HPL lesson plans and HPL values were all embedded within the scheme of work and lessons in a consistent way. And so I did a lot of work on that. And then now, just recently, the school has expanded my role to doing something similar, but for the entire bilingual division, which means the academic English department as well as the Cambridge program. There's about 100 teachers or so in this program and many different courses, and so this will be quite a large undertaking. I've already started doing some work regarding this, but the bulk of that work as well will be expanded to next year when as we are trying to reach world-class status as an HPL school. So as far as the impact of my work on the students and the staff and the school in general, there are a few things I'd like to talk about. So my student learning and my lesson style has always been quite student-driven in terms of them creating their product or them working on the things they need to work on. There would be, oftentimes, obviously the things the teacher needs to do with their teacher talking time, like scaffolding and modeling and making sure that the students fully understand everything, echo questions and all the things I was taught in my master's program. I still, of course, put forth when teaching students, but in terms of, I try not to micromanage in the way that students actually work on their assignments until there is feedback. One of the things that I've since changed, I used to give an assignment, explain it, so there's a lot of my teacher talking time there, and then give them a lot of freedom to do what they need to do with, just working with them to make sure they're on the right track, but mostly letting them take it into their own creative directions without too many limitations. And then I would give feedback, which would be a lot of my teacher talking time as well. I've since learned with implementing HPL and with going to workshops and reading up on things that the students should be more involved in their feedback as well. And so now my feedback style has shifted to half teacher, half student collaboration, I suppose. So that's one impact that it's had on me and my teaching. As far as the students, the students have all. I think the biggest thing I've noticed with the students after implementing HPL at the school is just a higher level of intellectual confidence. I think there's a lot of goals that HPL has. I know intellectual confidence is one of them. This is the one I'm seeing the most in my students. Students are less afraid to take on challenging tasks, especially when they think or feel that it was their prerogative to do so. Obviously, parents here in Vietnam and typically Asia as well, they tend to have high expectations of their students, of their children. But now the students that I've been teaching have been much more or much less intimidated by these expectations and ready to take on more challenges. There's some examples in my evidence. There's the girl who wrote an entire detective novel. Very proud of her. There's also the performance of everybody in the SAT classes that I teach, as well as the IELTS courses. Generally there has been direct improvement that is measured in data, as well as situations or anecdotal evidence of students just being more confident in the classroom and producing products that could only be produced by an intellectually confident student. So I'm proud of my students, and I'm happy that HPL has been able to give these tools to my students. Other impact concerning the policies of the school, HPL is a lot more systematized and embedded this year than it was in prior years. We have the behavioral system, which accreditors who have come to see our school are familiar with, but there's also now there's a shift going on in the academic English department to make things a little less centered around test prep and more centered around project-based learning. I have been behind that effort, and we're looking to create 4 new assessed projects that students will have a large role in creating with the teacher, to break up the test prep a little bit more and to make the courses in AE a lot more interesting and a lot more focused on holistic development. The topics of these projects are general themes that are varied across content levels to give different students a chance to shine, as well as the products that are the end result will require different skills to be tested and different HPL, ICPs, and VAAs to be showcased. So this is something that is being built into the scheme of work as we speak because of efforts to embed HPL even further into the school, and I've worked a lot on that. We've got, in terms of other impacts, there's events that the school runs that I take part in. I believe HPL associate David Muir came during one of those events. We had the book day where I ran a station for students to design their own book covers and back of the book blurbs, or where students could write their own endings to stories. This took a lot of creativity, and the students were very interested. We had a lot of submissions and a lot of student engagement. So the school's very proud of that event and other events like it. We've got, in terms of impact, what else here? I took notes, of course, to see. And just also students being a lot more familiar with HPL language and being able to more consistently use HPL language as just a part of their language learning or learning vocabulary, not language learning. They're able to comment on their progress with analyzing, or their progress with meta thinking, and the journals that they use are always in the journals that they use in lower secondary, for example, are always an example of reaffirmation of these values, as well as just the lessons that the teachers teach every day. Now the students are quite familiar with these concepts, and the students themselves can speak on these concepts, which is probably a large part of why our accreditation went the way it did. Moving on to Yeah, well, I'll speak a little bit about the challenges I've had personally leading HPL efforts, because I feel like that's important to discuss when discussing a journey and reflecting back, right? So, um, there's the occasional teacher resistance, right? When the school says we have to do this thing and it's important for education and it will be good for the students. Of course, teachers come from many different backgrounds and many different places, and they may have their own ideas about teaching, and some may believe HPL is more useful than others, right? Um, there wasn't any serious teacher resistance. Most teachers were on board immediately once uh, the philosophies of HPL were explained and the reasons for why we focus on these specific skills that we focus on for the students. And that was usually my strategy for getting through any minor resistance about why do we have to do an accreditation, or is somebody going to come, and is that the right time for them to come? Or I would usually just bring it back to the fact that these things are things that we try to teach our students anyway. These things are mostly just renamed concepts that you, as a quality teacher, are already doing, and so it shouldn't be, too intimidating for you or anything like that. And once they were reminded of that fact, of the fact that these things are the HPL, the ACPs, and the VAAs, and all, and student-led projects. These are all things that we have been aspiring to go through anyway, and these are all things that most of the teachers have been doing, and so resistance was typically not too what do I say, like, it didn't meet particularly difficult to combat resistance once things were properly communicated that this is not a scary test or inspection, but rather just an affirmation of teaching qualities that the teachers already possess, right? Another challenge, anybody who's familiar with Wensiu School, there's the challenge of it being quite a large school with many different departments and many different, it's a bilingual school, so there's a bilingual division and a Vietnamese division, all with different staff, and getting HPL integrated into all of that, though it wasn't strictly my job to get it implemented into the Vietnamese side. Even just getting everybody in the bilingual division or everyone in the AE department all on the same page was a bit of a challenge, but just, with organization and workshops and emails going out to everybody, we managed to get everyone in the bilingual department on the same page, and the AE department caught up and everything. So that was, another challenge, though, is just the sheer scale of the school. And finally, just, occasional student confusion about what is expected of them with each ACP and VAA. Just making sure the teachers are properly educated on these values and how to teach these values and how to put them into the lessons. I ran a lot of workshops, and I created documents, and I gave examples of different activities that each ACP and VAA would be showcased in. And once teachers engaged with some of this, if not all of it, then they were able to sort of lessen student confusion about which skills are used when and what kind of overlap there is in between skills and things like that. So, as far as my development as a leader regarding HPL, it's been, it has been a bit of a journey, especially since the scope of my responsibility kept changing from just teacher who can do HPL values in their class to teacher responsible for AE implementation to now teacher responsible for bilingual division implementation. It's been, I've had to sort of level up at each of those stages. I found that the more people I became responsible for coaching or for giving advice to, the earlier I started planning for things like that. The longer I spent on emails and planning for workshops, making sure that information was properly disseminated and in a way that was palatable to all, right? Better and more swift communication with people who had questions. And I tried to and I also try to promote synergy between HPL and other programs that the school is interested in doing. The school is also interested in becoming an eco-green school, and that aligns very well with themes of empathy and concern for society for HPL. So it's easy to synergize programs to make that so that teachers feel that they are sort of efficiently implementing everything the school is interested in implementing into their lessons. And once, teachers like to, and myself of course too, like to get the feeling that their time isn't being wasted and that they are doing everything for a reason. And so that was a big part of my development as an HPL leader, is just making sure that everybody knows why we are doing this. It's good for the students, it's good for the school, and it's good for professional development. And as long as I could communicate that properly, I felt I had a lot more success in bringing other teachers and people relevant and students and everyone to my side on this. So as far as the future of my responsibilities for HPL teacher leader, like I said, I've been my role has been changed to HPL lead for the school. So I'm going to be focusing on linking a lot of these values and programs together across departments whenever I possibly can. The logistics of certain things are difficult. For example, these projects, I try to make content relevant for the AE students for their Vietnamese classes, but then in Vietnam they have pathways where they have to go into this pathway or that pathway, and so not every student in my AE class is taking the same classes, not even close actually. So linking directly to Vietnamese classes in the AE class is logistically difficult, but I'm looking at progress on programs like that where I can do as much cross-disciplinary connection to HPL as possible to get other departments consistently engaging with HPL, and I do think that will go relatively well, starting with this project-based learning thing for AE and going to just workshops that all teachers will be part of instead of just AE teachers, and just expanding and maintaining. The other departments are also quite embedded with HPL already, but just maintaining that embedding and making sure that new teachers are inducted properly into the HPL scheme and philosophy will be my work moving forward, as well as achieving world-class status for the school moving forward will be what I'll be working towards. And so yeah, I mean, I think there's not a whole lot else for me to reflect on other than that I'm just really proud of my students for how they've been able to adapt quickly to the new information that HPL brings, and how they've been able to internalize some of these concepts and really sort of improve themselves. That's of course the goal of HPL, but just seeing it happen has been actually inspiring to the point where, HPL has become less about, for me anyway, it's become less about getting the accreditation for the school and more about actually implementing this holistic education across as many students as I can, because I think that it is truly valuable. Yeah, that I suppose is my reflection. I'm sure there's things I missed. I don't know. I have to go over a long period of time with HPL and in the school, and I'm sure there's anecdotes I could have mentioned or other evidence I could put forth or things. I suppose that this commentary plus the evidence that I have plus a live assessment, anybody who's looking at this for my accreditation could hopefully get a pretty clear picture of my journey, and I look forward to that. So thank you very much. Oh, this might be a little long. I hope it's okay. All right. Bye-bye.